want to go. Take me back home.
During the 1874 looting of Kumasi and the burning of the palace, thousands of objects were taken from the palace.
Because most of the works that are produced are part of the ancestral body. They are part of the memory body. So if it is far away from them, it becomes injustice, becoming inhuman.
So if you don't know your history, if you don't understand your culture, if you don't understand your tradition, you don't have an identity.
You came into my space, you stole something, and I'm now going through a lot of labor for you to return what you have stolen. It's a question of morality.
Then when the other side, they believe that this object is too fragile, this object, after all, we fought them, we won them.
We are not begging. It is part of us to say, this is belong to us.
Nigerian cultural warrior Jelili Atiku speaks for thousands of stolen African artworks that are housed in museums across Europe. He travels to Western institutions to make his point. That Africa's cultural heritage are not curiosities bound in museums. They are part of the spiritual life of their creators and their communities. And they bring to life the development of African civilizations.
The colonial masters were amazed by the ingenuity of those and the civilization they see in those objects. And most of them were stolen away and they were taken into museums all over the world. Because most of the works that are produced are part of the ancestral body. They are part of the memory body. They are part of the achievement of the people. So if it is far away from them, it becomes injustice, becoming inhuman. You came into my space, you stole something, and I'm now going through a lot of labor for you to return what you have stolen. It's a question of morality. So it is just being human for me to act as an artist. I know, and I've done a lot of works in that respect, and also let people understand it. We are not begging. It is part of us to say, this is belong to us.
Jelili has traveled the world, often dressed like the statues he's demanding returned.
Take me back home. 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 Take me back home.
The Benin bronzes are probably the most famous trove of African art to be looted and taken overseas. Most of them were lost to the British Army during the 1900s.
They came under anger and in form of, they call it punitive expedition. In order to punish the Beninese, they looted their treasuries, which happened to be bronze, and many objects in the palace, particularly bronze. They looted them and took them outside to the British and sent it to the world market by distributing it, by selling it out.
So even the 1897 expedition that had most of the objects, we know that, well, to me, I don't think it was a punitive thing. I believe that they actually wanted those objects. They had seen the beautiful craftsmanship behind those objects.
About 700 kilometers to the west of Lagos, we hear a similar tale in the Ghanaian city of Kumasi.
In 1874, the British sent Sir Charles Garnet Wesley to Kumasi to invade Kumasi. So Sir Charles Garnet Wesley came and attacked the people, and he was not able to defeat Asantes. So he went and he was asked to come back to Kumasi to burn down the city.
During the 1874 looting of Kumasi and the burning of the palace, thousands of objects were taken from the palace.
The Ashanti kingdom flourished from 1701 until the British sent their king into exile in the Seychelles in 1896.
Ashanti and the British have been friends and enemies. For a very long time they were enemies because Ashanti was controlling almost the whole of the present-day Ghana and beyond. And when the British came, they brought in their strategy of divide and rule, playing other ethnic groups against Ashanti, where the British would aid them to have their independence from Ashanti.
Ghana at one time was known as the Gold Coast. Their artisans worked with this prized metal.
Every art form of the Ashanti people speaks volumes. It has spiritual implications, spiritual values, and then it has a physical value. It's gold. Every item you see about the Ashanti people is gold, and everything gold is wealth, a lot of money.
While the British made off with a fortune, they were not done with the Ashanti.
So in 1896, the British brought troops, some from Senegal, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and Jamaica, to Kumasi. There were about over 3,200 troops. They came and surrounded Kumasi. But he has not prepared at that moment for this war.
King Prempeh I was exiled to the Seychelles. And as for the Ashanti gold,
the British soldiers also looted and took it for themselves. They didn't give it to the British government, so they also sold what they had.
Since the 1960s, African governments, civil societies, activists have been actively campaigning for the return of the ancestral treasures.
They want it back because it's for them. And the elderly people believe in those things more than the youth. At least they came to meet their fathers and mothers who told them a lot of stuff about these items that were carried away. I grew up to hear about these stories, and the kind of the way and manner they told the story to me make me feel that I have lost something.
To Jelili, these artworks have deep spiritual significance.
Most of these sculptural pieces that are created from indigenous body of anesthesians were not created as an object for museum pieces. They're created as an object of life, where it connects you, or the practitioner, to the inner one.
Jelili has a leadership role within the Awori community, consisting of mostly ethnic Yorubas in Greater Lagos. Every 17 days, they perform a ritual that is designed to unlock the energy of their ancestors.
When people get sick in the community, it is because of the imbalances of the space, of the people, and also of some of our own interactions. So Itadogu of the Orisha in Ejigbo is actually to activate the peaceful environment, the energy to be balanced, and of us to live in peace. The custodians are those who have the sacred power to make Iwure there are all women in the community. And that's why we say here in Ejigbo, we are of the feminine energy. Every person that breathes into it, they inhale the energy of healing. And it becomes part of their own life for healing, for well-being, for all things that make them.
Jelili believes returned artifacts belong to their original communities, not another museum.
So when you take the work outside and put it in a museum, it becomes a dislocated energy. And that's when the idea, when some of us were talking about, let's negotiate. Let's talk about these objects that you are putting there. Do you actually understand how, why, and what are the processes they were created?
Jelili is not alone. His opinion is echoed by others, even those who work for museums. The Ditsong Museum of Cultural History in Johannesburg houses a treasure trove of over 25,000 objects. Much of the collection here was seized from South African communities by the European settlers who held power until the end of the apartheid regime.
With the Witchcraft Suppression Act, so healers, traditional healers, would have been called witches because they use indigenous ways of healing. So some of them were taken from these people who are healers. So before we start working in this space, which is the anthropology collection, we acknowledge the spirits that resides in this space, because a lot of them have been collected, or the so-called collection, uprooted, displaced from the different communities, and there's still a lot of violence and pain.
Motsane considers herself a spiritual person, although not a sangoma or healer. She would like to see artifacts that come back to Africa return to their communities.
That they should not be going to museums when they are taken from Europe. They shouldn't be going to African museums. They should be going to communities, because a museum is just another institution that is colonial concept.
But the efforts of reinstituting African artwork were met with unexpected impediments.
There are laws of antiquity in the UK that is against state museums and monuments getting back to where they were taken from. That law, or those two laws, two very critical laws, are very silent on the means of how the items got to the UK. But of course, they cover that aspect of their return, that you can't return these objects under any circumstances.
Open Restitution Africa works to help the continent gain back some of its cultural treasures.
Africans have been demanding the return of their heritage pretty much from the moment that many of them were taken. There are many documented cases of Africans protesting at the very moment that something is taken. And this is more than 200 years of history of Africans demanding this back. Our research at Open Restitution Africa has shown significantly more discussion, engagement, conversations. In fact, in the sort of academic publishing world, discussion about restitution of African heritage has grown by 500% since 2016.
Molemo's organization trains and shares effective practices with governments and institutions.
So there is a long history, what we at Open Restitution Africa call a history of excuses.
Then why the other side, they believe that this object is too fragile, this object, after all, we fought them, we won them, and that's why we are in possession. After all, we are their colonial masters. After all, we are this. After all, they can't even take care of this object.
There's always this excuses like you don't have capacity as far as conservation is concerned, and we are talking about Western conservation. And I always say Africans have always been preserving and conserving their material, our ancestral possessions. We've always been doing that.
The point is, they do not want to let go because of the benefits of which that most of the objects are given to them. Well, it's actually a laughable concept to say we don't have the facility. Well, it's just a common sense. We do have the facility to produce the work, and you are now questioning the facility to be a custodian of our own. It's laughable. They are just bringing up a kind of flimsy excuses to say, we have Nigerian has a lot of facility. We can build it. For example, in Benin, a museum is being constructed. We should go to home everything.
The object belongs to us. That is fact. We don't debate that one. It belongs here. And two, they looted it. And we didn't bargain for war. They just came here on their own and they went with it.
And I think we're at a stage where Africans are not willing to engage with the excuses that are given to us by institutions and sometimes national bodies.
But change is on the way. In 2025, French lawmakers are voting on a bill to reverse a similar law that keeps the artifacts from returning home. The Berlin Ethnological Museum has also acted, returning more than 500 of the Benin bronzes since 2002. Ngaire Blankenberg has viewed the argument from both sides. For 3 years, she was the director of the Smithsonian National Museum of African Art in Washington, D.C.
I very quickly in my tenure committed to returning everything in our collection, actually, that was unethically procured. But we started with the Benin bronzes that was in the collection at the time. And so we ended up returning and doing a restitution of those back to the Nigerian Commission of Museums and Monuments in Nigeria.
Being an African, she not only understood the historical and cultural context of the items, she also knew how they were procured.
There's an epistemic violence associated with pillage of our cultural heritage in Africa, which is also like a saying that your knowledge doesn't matter, and our knowledge about your heritage is the most important.
Ngaire is now based in South Africa, where she works on improving facilities and advises others on repatriation issues.
But for me, I know that wherever I am in the world, till now and before then, when I see work that has come from the continent, that has been created by Africans, that has been stolen and clearly stolen, and it's on display in museums, I find it like inconceivable. I find it makes me physically sick.
In 2021, she removed 21 objects that were on display at the Smithsonian. In 2022, the institution, under Ngairu's leadership, repatriated 29 of the Benin bronzes to Nigeria.
While I was there, I was on the Ethical Returns and Stewardship Committee, and it was a very important idea that, we had to have an ethical basis for the things in our collection. So as director, I was very, very open to saying, whatever's in our collection that shouldn't be in our collection for whatever reason, you should have it back.
This one is a bronze used by the Oba. They call it altar of the right hand. This altar.
Objects coming from the Smithsonian and the Fowler Museum from Los Angeles, California, have been returned permanently. But others from the British Museum, following the law, have come on loan.
At least the objects are here, and they will be here for about 6 years. We're presenting to you a set of books about the museum.
Ivor has worked on bringing home the Ashanti gold artifacts for much of the 50 years that negotiations have been held.
So the negotiations with them had to do with the fact that they were looted objects, whether you bought them or whether they were given as gifts. And they were documentary proof, of course, that these were taken.
Ivor supervised the boxing of the objects in London, making sure that every item was documented and treated with care.
But it was when the objects got here, and then we started the homecoming exhibition, and then to see that the journey had been very long. The negotiations had been very long, taking so many years. And then when it was opened, the exhibition was opened, and then we were all here. I think it was a very joyous time.
In 2024, 32 items came to Kumasi from the British and Victoria and Albert museums. Ivor says that 40 million people have viewed them in person or online since they came back. But many are disappointed that they are here on loan.
These are the items which were recently returned by the British Museum. It was returned last year in the month of May during the homecoming. So a lot of people get excited to see that, but then they feel sad when they hear the part that they are loaned to Ashanti.
Long-term loans, which I do not understand. You cannot steal from me, and then you say you are loaning me something. It does not make sense at all.
Besides pushing the laws to be changed, plenty of effort is still being made to repatriate more African treasures.
We're talking to museums in Glasgow, in Scotland, and we've been having discussions with the Wellcome Trust, which has the Wellcome collection also in London, and we're talking to others.
In the Menhir Palace Museum, people have come to reconnect with their ancestors. Over 4,000 school children visit the museum every month.
Things from the foreign world are coming into the system a lot, so it's important to preserve the culture for these things to be here so that the upcoming generation can still see what our heritage is about.
The emphasis on young Africans knowing their culture is seen in Nigeria too.
We make sure that these students come and, like they say, catch them young. So, we try as much as possible, to educate them, to appreciate their cultural heritage.
If you don't know where you are coming from, you will not know where you are going to. So if you don't know your history, if you don't understand your culture, if you don't understand your tradition, you don't have an identity. That's why we have these objects to teach these people who they are.
So for them to come over here and be educated in no colonized way, then they will be understanding that the ancestors were not just a people, but they were civilized people.
It's not about fast, it's about doing it well. And doing it well means doing it in ways that really meets African needs, repairs the damage that has happened in the African continent, reinstores the knowledge that has been lost through the process.
Je suis venu récupérer les biens volés de l'Afrique, ces biens qui ont été volés sous la colonisation en 1800.
In 2020, Congolese activist Emery Mwazulu Diabanza and 4 others went on trial on theft charges for trying to remove a 19th century African funeral pole from a Paris museum as part of a protest campaign against colonial era plundering. The incident pushed the discussion over restitution to a new level. Some believe art belongs to everyone. Others fight to give it back to its original communities.
And in restitution, I try to question the fact that do we actually understand this object that we're talking about? Do we understand that most of these objects are created as a kind of an embodiment of the energy of the society that produced them? And I come to the conclusions to say that museum is actually an extension of colonial master.
Set our ancestors free!
While some dismiss such proposition as radical, for Jelili, the struggles are but vital steps on a long journey, one leading back to ancestral spirits and a reclaimed sense of home.